Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Owen McKendry. We're here to discuss the news that Conor Benn will not fight Chris Eubank Jr. on February the 3rd. He will not fight Devin Haney on February the 3rd. He will fight the undefeated Peter Dobson. Owen, thanks for jumping on. Breaking news in the last hour or so. Um, Maybe not the fight that we were expecting to happen. Maybe it's the fight we were expecting to happen. What is your reaction to this news?
Completely underwhelming. I think that's painting a nice picture over it, to be honest. Um, Bit of a shameless plug, but obviously an interview on our channel with myself and Frankie Gavin. I started it with Frank saying to Frankie, Conor Benn's called out pretty much every fighter on the planet between 147 and 154. That is a name and of substance. And obviously you named a couple of them there, and you include the likes of Tank, etc. And for him to be fighting someone where I think pretty much even every hardcore boxing fan that's interested or seen the news has gone, who on earth Peter Dobson? Obviously, no fault of his own, but yeah, it's mental from calling out some of the pound for pound stars in the likes of Devin Haney, um, to fighting someone that no one knows is it's disappointing. I mean, I'm not exactly an advocate for that Conor Benn should be back in a boxing ring, but unfortunately, it's something we're going to have to get used to. Um, so yeah, it's highly disappointing and quite amusing, to be honest, that this is his sort of comeback fight again, in a sense.
Yeah, of course. I think that this fight is in Las Vegas, the USA. Conor Benn hasn't fought in the UK now since April of last year. So it's been a while. He was obviously in the ring. I think it was in October, September, October time earlier this year against Rodolfo Orozco, the Mexican, fight which he dominated on points. Peter Dobson, let's be honest, we've both kind of been to the BoxRec profile. Peter Dobson, I don't think many people there are experts on him. Undefeated fighter, 33 years old, made his debut back in 2014. However, he has, by the time they get in the ring, it will have been over 18 months since he's been in the ring, which, from a personal level, is a bit disappointing. I'd like to see Conor Benn. I'm not expecting him necessarily to go up against Devin Haney because that's too much. That's just too much for step up for him. I would have liked to have seen him gone up against a top 50 opponent, an active opponent, rather than someone who is, as you say, underwhelming. How would you compare this fight to the last fight Conor Benn had in October, Owen? Your feelings for this fight and your feelings compared to the last fight?
I think, like we said off camera, and like you sort of alluded to, the Mexican, I think he had a bit more substance in his profile and fights he's had and the fighters that he's been in the ring with. I mean, you look at Peter Dobson, he's 33. He's been a pro for almost 10 years and he's had 16 fights. I know he's fought a couple of undefeated people, but when you look at who they are, they're undefeated because they haven't stepped in the ring with anyone decent. So it's again, I like doing these videos because it's an anomaly. You know, for all we know, he could have dynamite in his hands and he could come out and he could send Conor Benn into the shadow realm, or he could come out and just be a punching bag. So it is the unknown, but I think it's going to be likely more the second. So I think that the Mexican was an intriguing one because again he was unknown, but his record was a bit more intriguing than Dobson's. So I think he's taken a step back, if I'm honest. It's one step forward after the tests, the hearings, the issues with the board, Robert Smith's comments, etc. And then I think this fight's two massive steps backward because realistically, who out of the top, even 15 is probably being excessive. Even at the top 20, top 25, who's realistically looking at Conor Benn between sort of 147 to up to 154, where he seems keen to fight? Who's looking at these two fights back to back and thinking, yeah, I'll fight him. So it's for me, it's yeah, the one step forward and two massive steps backward.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement here. I think what will be told is that. Conor Benn is aiming for a big fight in the summer, May, June time of 2024. Um, However, like we were originally told Chris Eubank Jr. on December 23rd. We were then told Chris Eubank Jr. February the 3rd, and now we've got Peter Dobson on February the 3rd. And is a big fight going to happen for Conor Benn in the summer? Is he going to be cleared to fight in the UK in the summer? We don't know. There's still so many question marks here. And there's just a lot of the unknown. Final question before we wrap up, Owen. If I was to ask you a big name that springs to mind for Conor Benn to fight in the summer, whether take away your feelings about Conor Benn, whether you think he should be boxing or not, he is boxing, so we kind of have to. That's not in our control. We have to accept that for the time being, he will be boxing for the foreseeable, whether that's in the UK or not. What's the name that does it for you? Do you want to finally see that Chris Eubank fight? Mario Barrios is another name that's been discussed. Another tricky one is that we don't know what weight Conor Benn's going to settle at. Is it 147? Is it 154? Is it 160? We don't know. He is naturally a 147, but we'll see. Are there any names that spring to mind for you?
For me, it's like you say, all feelings aside, because you know my views on Conor Benn. For me, it's just Eubank. I think at this point, when you hear fights talked about for so long, it's not on the same level, but almost like AJ Wilder, Fury AJ. It's like we hear these big fights that go on for so long, and even like your Mayweather Pacquiao's, eventually when they happen, they're not what the fight should have been. And I think there's been so much trash talk, there's been so much build up to a fight that was so close to happening, and then to a fight that was never happening, to looking like it's coming back on, to not happening again. So for me, I just want to see the outcome, just to
Yeah,
see if my initial thoughts were correct, to see if I was wrong. But just it's almost like a circus. The Conor Benn, not even the whole situation, just Conor Benn, Chris Eubank. Um, Personally, I can see why Chris Eubank priced himself out of it, because I know the IBO is not the most lucrative title, but if he gets an IBO title, then it opens up potentially more title fights over in the States. And Conor Benn is just a big money fight. There's nothing else to it. He hasn't got any belts. His rankings, I'll be surprised if he's allowed to even have rankings within certain governing bodies. But yeah, if I see him in a big fight, it's got to be Eubank. There's been far too much build up for us to be for it to be taken away of us again.
we shall see. Yeah, look, that fight will always, it's always going to be there. There's always that rivalry for obvious reasons, and we'll see. But it's exhausting because Conor Benn it was revealed that Conor Benn had failed a drugs test the beginning of October last year. It's now the end of December next year, this year, and in that time, Conor Benn's had one fight. Um, so there's just not been very much ring action in the midst of all of it. But we'll see. Conor Benn will fight Peter Dobson February the 4th in Las Vegas. Not quite the electrifying fight we were all hoping for, but it is happening, and we will see what happens next. Owen, thank you for joining me. I'll speak to you again soon.
Pleasure as always, mate.